Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to the weekly update of the 2020 presidential election model. Before I get into things, liking, commenting, and if you're not already, subscribing greatly helps the channel out. So if you think the content is worth any of that, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, I'd like to say Wednesday I will debut the Senate model, which will probably have a small adjustment phase before it's relatively set in stone. Anyway, on to 2020. Right now, I'm accounting for a generic Democrat as opposed to any one candidate as to avoid bias and throwing my model off. Biden would generally do better, and someone like Inslee would be performing much worse. As it stands, a generic Democrat would lose to Trump, with Pennsylvania being the tipping point. But all of the big three, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, are within a percent or two according to my model, so it's essentially a coin flip. Moving on to other hot spots, North Carolina is a relatively close state where turnout will matter more than anything else. Florida is fairly close too, though Trump does hold a slight edge. In the desert Southwest, Republicans are going to have to start taking Arizona seriously as a swing state, as it's getting much more competitive. And Texas is not as red as it used to be, but it does float around the same level of red as New Mexico is blue. Nevada is looking to be close again and is probably one of the weaker pickup opportunities for the GOP. Back on the East Coast, Virginia is sitting right at the edge of about 5 points, and if we move up to Delaware, it's on the far side of 10% for Republicans. And New Jersey and New York are IMO flukes of my model. Though there may be some evidence based off of a recent poll that if Trump does not face a New Yorker or faces an extremely unpopular one, such as Bill de Blasio, it could be more competitive than it has been in recent history. But that's the difference between 20% and 16% for margin of victory. Rhode Island dips in and out of the likely column, but is a lot swingier than most states, so grain of salt is required there. Minnesota is definitely a competitive state, and Democrats need to take that one seriously as a swing state, or they risk losing it. Elsewhere, the expectations are relatively normal. Going to the Democratic primaries, Biden continues to lead, but it has narrowed and Warren has gained. As expected, Biden has had maybe not a series of gaffes, but he has had a few noteworthy mistakes in campaigning, ranging from flip-flopping awkwardly on abortion policy to a few weird remarks and, of course, being creepy Uncle Joe. Sanders is also potentially becoming an also-ran as he is being pushed aside for other progressives, namely Warren and Harris, and Buttigieg is looking to be competitive in the early stage despite his lack of name recognition. Those four, and actually I'll make them five, are the big names in the Democratic primaries at the moment. However, we still have a ton of debates, and we'll see what happens before Iowa. In news of independent Howard Schultz, well, there is no news, and it's becoming much less likely that he announces a campaign. So it is likely it will be Trump versus whoever the Democrats put out, with a Libertarian getting 1 to 2% of the vote. Speaking of the Donald, he has an edge over the Democrats in campaign strategy. This is because he's already in the general election. Bill Weld and Larry Hogan are not serious contenders in the primary, and since there are no primary debates scheduled, he is effectively running unopposed for the Republican nomination. Because he can devote his energy to the general, he is able to get preemptive strikes against the leading Democrats, as well as play test various campaign messages and speeches. In addition, he can define the battleground on which the general election campaign is fought. This means he can take some time to explore alternate roads to victory and attempt to campaign in states that are perhaps a bit too much of a lift if he had to run a primary campaign against a serious challenger. This also means that he doesn't have to waste money on a primary campaign and can focus his war chest solely on the general election. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See y'all next time. Take it easy. Bye.